Welcome back to the channel. My name is Douglas, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the difference between a project, a sequence, a track, and a program. And this is all within the MPC Key 61. And if you just bought this or you're looking to pick it up and you're just trying to learn about this keyboard, it's extremely powerful, and I think it helps to understand the very basics of how a song is structured and built within the MPC Key 61. If you want to check out some of my recording a linear song or recording a beat, I'll put those links in the description below. But in this video, we're going to be talking about kind of the fundamentals to what makes up a project and the components within that. So let's jump over to my studio desk and let's get right into this. So over here on the MPC Key 61, the first thing we're going to talk about is a project. So think of a project as a big container that everything in your song sits in. So if I wanted to take this and move it to another MPC Key 61, or I wanted to move it to my computer, open it up in the MPC2 DAW, a project allows me to kind of have a self-contained unit that contains all of the components of my song. So no matter where I move it to, I have everything I need to continue working on that song or to play that song. So to get started with a project, we're going to tap on this empty project, but you can see I've got recent projects in here, project templates. Those come with the keyboard. These are ones that I've recently built, and we're just going to tap on empty project. This is going to load up an empty project, and by default, there's 4 tracks set up, 4 plugin programs, and we can see all of that by tapping on this main button right here. This brings us over to our project view. So again, think of a project as a big container that has all of our information for our song in it. Now, inside that container, we have dividers, and those dividers are our sequences. We can move from one sequence to the next, and those allow us to put together a song with, let's say maybe we put the chorus on one sequence, the verse on another sequence. We build our sequences so then we can stitch those together into a song. Now, within each sequence, we can have multiple tracks. So again, we've got our big project container that's divided up into our sequences, and each sequence is divided up into tracks. Now, a track is really just storing the data behind what we're playing, the controls we're tweaking. All of those get recorded into our track, and we can have many tracks within each sequence. So we've got our big project, we have that sectioned up into our sequences, and each sequence, if we zoom in, is sectioned off into the many tracks that we can put into that sequence. You can have different types of tracks, whether it's an audio track, a drum program track, a plugin program like the instruments, or other things like CVs and external MIDI tracks and things like that. Now, each track, as I mentioned, stores all of the data around what we've played, whether it's on the pads or the keys, the controls we've tweaked. All of that data needs to be heard somehow. And that is heard by connecting the track with a program. Now, this could be if we switched our track types to the drum track, now we have drum program. So it's all basically a program. It's just depending on the track type, depends on the kind of program you have. So we've got drum program, we've got our plugin program, which would be our instruments. So depending on, again, what type of track you have, defines what kind of program is referenced. Now, because all we're doing is linking our track to our program, we could have many tracks all referencing the same program. Or we could have one-to-one track to program and build our song that way. A good example of this is with drums. Maybe we go in and we have a drum program that we go into browse and we pick this and we load up a drum program. Now, when you're building your drum track, sometimes you want to have the kick on a separate track, snare, hi-hats, all of that on separate tracks. So as you're editing, you can apply different effects to maybe the kick versus the snare, because the way that you mix and edit this song is going to be different with those different instruments within that drum kit. So what we could do is we could have many tracks all tied to the same drum program, and this allows us to just have a greater level of control over each sound within our drum kit. And so again, we back up, we have our project. Within there, we have our sequences. Within each sequence, we have our tracks, and then each track is tied to a program. And that's how you hear the data that was recorded on that track. Now, if we go into our view here, we can see all of our MIDI tracks up top here. And if we scroll down, we can see our audio tracks here. So again, with audio tracks, it's a little different. You don't have a program that's letting you hear the data because an audio track is the data. So when you record an audio track, there's no program or any concept like that. You're just recording audio onto that track. Similar to if you have a DAW and you're just recording an audio track of a microphone, there's not a sound or an instrument behind that. The audio itself is that sound. So those work a little bit differently, but again, you can have many tracks within a sequence and then multiple sequences within your project as a whole, and then you can stitch all that together. Now, if we're talking about this from a linear recording basis, you wouldn't use multiple sequences most likely. You would just have one sequence that you'd set up your beats per minute. Your bars would be very long, and then you just have multiple tracks under there. Again, I would split out my drums onto different tracks. Maybe I've got 2 or 3 different piano parts that I'm doing different things with effect-wise. I'm going to put those on different tracks, even though they might all reference the same instrument or the piano plugin program that we've got there. Now, one thing we can do to kind of demonstrate how this all comes together is if we go up to our little home icon up here, and then we tap on this project button, this gives us a high level view of what's contained within our project. So if we collapse these, you'll see we have our project, that's our big container. We have our sequences down in here, and each sequence has tracks, right? Now, each of these tracks, you can see this is a drum track, plugin track. You can see the little icon there. Each of these tracks is referencing a program. So we've got these programs up here, and we can tap on programs like this drum kit. Whoops. And when we tap on that, we can actually see the samples that are contained within that drum track. And so this kind of gives you an idea of containerizing when you take this project and you move it to whether it's the computer with MPC2 DAW and you load this in, all the samples that you've tweaked and done stuff with here are contained within that project, so they move with it. Again, if you were moving this, let's say you built this song or project and you wanted to move that to another MPC key, you could do that by saving the project and loading it up, and you'd have everything you need to go from there. So hopefully that helps clarify for you what a project, a sequence, a track, a program all do and how they function with each other to build the song or the project that you're putting together. If you've got any questions, throw those down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. Stay inspired and keep making that music.